Your father was a kickboxer, right?
Yeah, my dad was a kickboxer.
So as soon as you were a kid, you already wanted to train kickboxing or martial arts?
Yeah, I actually started going with him when I was 4 years old, because he would pick me up and take me after his work and stuff. So instead of just sitting on the sidelines, I jumped in. So yeah, I started kickboxing when I was 4, and I did it pretty much my whole childhood.
Did you happen to have the chance to see him fight live?
Yeah, I've seen my dad fight a few times. I've actually cornered him twice, which was an experience as well. But yeah, I've seen my dad fight a few times.
How old were you when you cornered him?
I think the first time I cornered him, I was 14.
Wow.
So he waited a little while to let me do that, but he took a short notice fight and didn't have a corner, and I said, I'll come. So then we went up together and he fought, I cornered him, and that was it. So yeah.
So at 14, you were already living in Australia?
Yeah, we lived in Australia at that point.
Where do you live in Australia?
Where?
Where did you live? Yeah.
Yeah, the Gold Coast.
Okay.
Just near Brisbane.
So yeah, I've been to Brisbane. That's why I asked. I thought it was this, but and so did you move like when you were 9, 10 years old from Scotland to Australia?
Yeah, I think I was 10 when I moved over to Australia.
Was the transition okay? Did you prefer Australia?
As a kid, I loved it because obviously it's freezing cold in Scotland and always like dark and miserable, and there's not much to do. So moving to Australia, we had the beach, it was sunny, we could swim in the pool all day. So yeah, I loved it.
So you said you trained with your father like soon when you were young. What time did you start to realize you really want to be very, very serious about martial arts, any martial arts?
I mean, I always loved martial arts and always watched fighting with my dad. Every time that there was a fight on, we would have it on. I think that I got serious when my dad started his MMA promotion in Australia. He actually started running fight night events. And when he started that, I told him that I was going to fight for him. And he said, there's no way in hell you're going to do MMA. And then about a year later, I think I had my first fight for him.
Yeah, actually, your first fight, I think, amateur fight was 2014, right? So you was maybe like 16, 17?
It was a month before my 16th birthday.
And so did you start to fight? Do you have a fight quickly after starting to train MMA?
Pardon?
Did you start training and fought like a year later?
Yeah, so I was training MMA from, I think I was like 12 when I started doing like jiu-jitsu and mixing everything together. And I had been training on and off, not like seriously, but at that point, yeah, I think I'd been training like semi-seriously for about a year.
Oh, that's cool. Well, something that's very interesting in your amateur career is that unfortunately it didn't start too well, the result of the fights.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess most people can relate to this, that when you start something and you don't get the good result right away, people try to get you to stop. Or did you even thought about stopping MMA? Or can you talk about the experience to lose your 2 first amateur fights?
Yeah, so the first one I lost. I was winning the fight and then got caught with a knee. And I was pretty young, so that was really hard to deal with. But obviously, I just wanted to jump straight back in there. So we started working again and I jumped back in. And then, yeah, I think in hindsight, it was a little bit too early now that I look back at it. And I did have a lot of people, including like my coach at the time and a lot of my training partners, sort of talking either to my face or behind my back about the fact that maybe this sport wasn't for me and that I should probably do it for fun and not like put all my eggs in this basket. But there was nothing, like something that I never considered was not going all for it. One thing about me is if I put my heart into something, I'm going to go for it. You know, I might struggle at the start, but I won't quit. So I decided to move gyms at that point, and I spent 2 years working under my head coach in Australia, Pasha Stoiler, and we worked on a lot for 2 years and improved a lot, and then we had our first fight, and I've been on a win streak ever since.
Yeah, since that day, since that second loss, you never lost until you never lost. And
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Just before we talk about the third fight, I wanted to talk about this because I'm sure there's a lot of people that watch this interview that are young up and comer fighters or just martial arts, and that say you should never let people talk to you at something. Like it's very tough when you're young because you're so influenceable. So it must be now you must be very proud that you keep going, right? It's something that can fuel you sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the main thing is just like, if you know what you want, just go for it. In fighting, it's a team sport, but it's also a solo sport. You're the only one that has to get in the cage. So, I mean, your coach could be telling you to stop or things like that, but just find someone that you fit with and that you work well with, and go for it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, because you definitely can. It just might take you a little bit longer than everyone else.
Yeah, actually, when I was watching your resume and thought about it, I was like, I thought about that quote in the $1 Million Baby where he said that fighting is chasing a dream that nobody see but you. And
Yeah,
actually, you put that on Instagram yesterday on your story. I was like, I
yeah,
thought about it as soon as I saw it, and I think it's very very true, especially when you start.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that this sport takes a lot of mental strength, and it's something that you have to develop as you go. Something that I still work on all the time. But yeah, staying mentally strong and true to yourself, and just knowing that if you work hard, you're going to get there eventually. I think that's one of the main aspects to the sport.
So then we're coming to that fight against Cardio, your third amateur fight. And I tried to find your two first fight, but I did not find them. I only
Mhm.
watched. I could watch that third fight though, and I guess you already changed a lot. You are already much more confident because maybe like 1 minute into the fight, you're already smiling. Like the beginning of the fight is a bit tough, but as soon as you find your range and then if you want to, I see you smile and relax way more. So I was like, there's no way that girl is fighting like if she was the back against the wall. Did you feel it was much different? The two loss were just behind you. It was just a fight.
Actually, I didn't feel too good for that one. I felt a lot of pressure because obviously I had left the coach that I had been working with since I started and moved somewhere else. And, I had still had them in my head telling me to stop and everything. And I thought to myself, sitting at the back, I even remember having thoughts of, is this really for me? Like, am I just going to go there and make a fool of myself and everyone's going to be like, I told you so. So I think that's what you can see in the first minute. But I mean, confidence has never really been an issue for me either. Like, other than maybe that 1 minute, I think that like every time I'm in the cage, I love it. I love what I do. It's the whole reason that I, continue to do it after those two losses. So once I started having fun and flowing and, like you said, found my rhythm, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And I have a question about this fight because actually you were winning most of the fight, and in the first one I think you went for like a jumping front kick and she shot a takedown on you, so she got you to the ground. And maybe on the second one it was the same thing. You were kind of like winning. You went for a spinning back fist and she took you down again. Like every time you got maybe overconfident to try something a bit too creative, too risky, she took you down. Is this something that you learned from that fight?
Yeah, I mean, I was still young when I had that fight. I think I was 18 at that point, or 19. So, I mean, I'm still young now. I'm only 23, but yeah, I was still growing into the sport, and things that were working in the gym weren't working in the fight. That's something that I took away from that fight. So, yeah, trying to be overzealous and trying to get, that highlight sort of finish or something like that. Yeah, I learned to just stick to the basics from that, because every time I threw something wild, I got taken down.
But also, that's why I was unsure because also on the ground you felt very, very confident and relaxed from your back. I think even at the end of one number one, you got like that triangle that you should do a armbar that was very close to end the fight. So do you have that in mind also when you strike? That you're kind of like you don't want to be taken out, but you don't care if you're on your back. Also because your jiu-jitsu is very good.
Yeah, I mean, in Australia, we don't have very much wrestling, so that's something that I'm picking up here, is that my wrestling is going to get a lot better. But yeah, so I never have been scared to fight off my back. I think that as an MMA fighter, you need to be able to fight everywhere and confidently. So yeah, I mean, I was very close to that triangle in the first round. I still remember the feeling of when I had it and her knee dropping into my face, because I think she was trying to defend it. I think that's the only reason that I didn't finish it, was because she hit me with a knee in the face that kind of like freaked me out a little bit. But yeah, I think that once you hit the floor, you just got to go for something. I think I always go for broke when I hit the floor.
But it's actually a good thing that you did not finish the fight in round number 1, because the finish in round number 3 is insane. You said you don't have too much wrestling in Australia, but you sure do jiu-jitsu, because it felt like shades of Sakuraba when you got that Kimura trap system when you finished
Yeah.
her. Did you see that when she shot the takedown, the single leg? Did you see right away her head was like very low and that you could use that one?
Yeah, so the Kimura trap system is actually my favorite jiu-jitsu all time. It's very closely followed by back taking, but yeah, I love the Kimura. And I actually, in between the second and the third round, my coach said to me, if you go for that Kimura again, I'm taking your blue belt off you. I was a blue belt at the time. He's like, it's revoked. Like, you're not allowed to go for that. So when I felt myself go for it at that last minute, I just thought to myself, fuck, you better finish this. I was like, if you don't finish this, you're in trouble. So yeah, I hit that as hard as I could and transitioned into the armbar. And I think that's still, like, without a doubt, my favorite finish I've had in an MMA fight. Just the feeling of finally, after 2 losses, getting that win with a finish the way I did after a hard fight. Yeah, I mean, I went out the back and I just like cried, and yeah, I was so happy. That was the best moment of my MMA career.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I watched that fight yesterday, I was like, holy shit, fuck. I got nuts as soon as I saw it. I was like, that's such a great first finish in your career. And it's such a good way, to erase all the bad memories you may have from your previous fight before. And yeah, that's one perfect first finish.
Yeah.
Sure. And so
Yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just couldn't have asked for a better finish for that one, It really solidified in my mind that what I was doing was working, and to just keep grinding.
And for sure, since that,
Sorry.
No worries. And since that day, you haven't lost.
Mm-hmm.
Amateur or pro, doesn't matter. And once you won that fight, it was like a pretty tough fight back and forth. Did you felt like, okay, now it's time to just work, improve, and take fight after fight and just see how it goes, just as a process to improve and not just focus so much on the result?
Yeah, so I just put all my trust into Pasha, and I just followed exactly what he wanted me to do. So if anything, I'm a workhorse in the gym. So since the 2 losses, I just thought I just need to work harder than everybody, and that's the way that I'm going to win. So I just stayed in the gym 24/7, getting ready for fights. And anytime that a fight opportunity came up, we took it. At the start, it was a little bit easier. I think I actually fought a month after that fight. I think I had my 4th fight a month after that fight. Won that fight as well by finish. And then it was harder to get fights after that. So my career spaced out a little bit after that one.
And so, of course, your jiu-jitsu is very impressive, because also you are very long legs and you're very flexible with them. And I don't know, I think you took the back of every opponent you have. Like,
yeah.
you take so many people's back, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And would you say on the feet, though, that you learn to relax way more and to actually not just shoot for 1-2s and to move your head to pivot after combos was like the main thing you worked on your feet?
Yeah, I ended up moving to Matrix Boxing Gym, which is in the Gold Coast, and working with Stephen, who's an amazing coach. I still work with him from a distance, but yeah, he really helped me with my striking. I think that, I mean, I have good striking, but I think that my main problem in my fights was that I was always too eager to like go forward and to strike hard. So yeah, I think once you watch my career, if you followed it, you'll see that as I go in my fights, it gets a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more technical.
Yeah, we'll get to the last fight that you had. That was very, very, very impressive. And actually, as I watched most of your fights, some of them I didn't find them, but most of them I watched in chronological order. I was like, it was great to see the improvement and the things that show up and don't show up. Like, I think I don't want to miss her name, but like Tina Trin, someone like that.
Yeah.
that I think they stopped the fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because so you got some success on the ground, on the feet, but it was mostly on the ground. They were just there is no competition at that point. And did you feel that you could overpower and also outskill most of those girls in those amateur fights as soon as they hit the ground?
Every single girl in Australia, I knew that I would beat, no matter what weight division it was. So in amateurs, I was struggling to get fights. So I fought from 115, my natural weight division, to 135. I was taking anything. So yeah, and I know that when it came to the amateurs, there was not a single girl that could even give me a single problem. So yeah.
So eventually, after winning 5 fights in a row, you stop your amateur career to move to the pros. I was just wondering, I guess I know the answer, but how did you happen to walk for fighting 3-minute ones to 5-minute ones? Did you just happen to just walk more, or did cardio was never an issue for you?
Cardio's never been an issue for me. I think if you've seen how much I train, truly, I actually get kicked out of the gym by most of my coaches. Like they'll see me and they're like, "Go home! Like you've done too much." So yeah, cardio's never really been an issue, and I love to fight with a high pace. I love to train with a high pace, and I love to feel exhausted after training. So yeah, so changing from 3 to 5 was actually good for me, I think. So my opponent at the time had 2 fights. My first professional opponent, she'd had 2 professional fights, so she kind of had been in there for a little bit longer. But I think that I pushed the pace on her and made her more tired than I was, so that was a good feeling.
Amira Fizovic, right? Is that fight?
Amira, yeah.
Yeah, that poor girl at the end of the fight, her face was so messed up. That was so
Yeah.
mean. And she was very, very tough though. It must have been like a good test also to know how far you can push because she had no quit in her.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted a hard fight. I got offered a debut girl, or I got offered Amira, who had 1 championship experience, and we took the harder fight. We'd been sitting around looking for a fight, so yeah, we wanted to test me straight away. I think since I moved to professional, I wanted hard fights every single time, just to know that I was ready when it got there. So yeah.
Actually, you mentioned a little bit wrestling before in Australia, but in that fight, one of the main things that I could see is that you worked a lot on wrist control when you're against the fence and to work on your whizzer also. Did you feel like your takedown defense was much better in that fight than it was before?
Yeah, my wrestling improved a lot over the years. It's still improving, and it's still something that I have to work on a lot because it's definitely my weakest area. But I love the wrist control and the wrist ride, sort of like Khabib style against the cage. I even did it in the Tina Trin fight a little bit, and the Christy Obbs fight as well. Yeah, that's one of my favorite techniques.
Yeah, and second thing that happened is that I don't know why, for some reason, I knew about you because I have some friends from Australia that have been talking about you for a year. And I say, yeah, I will watch, I will watch, I will watch. And finally, when I watch, I don't know why I thought you were like more like a kickboxer first, probably because your father was a kickboxer. And so
Mm-hmm.
I expected more at striking first, and I was surprised by the ground game. But in that fight against Afizovic, you actually saw a lot of clinching and framing that was super cool. Like you will frame her and get your elbows in after. And did you start to realize that you had like big advantage in the clinch in those fights because you're much stronger than those girls too?
Yeah, I think that I have a very big advantage when it comes to the clinch. I've been living in Thailand for 2 years now. So even before then, I'd been working on the clinch quite a bit because watching the girls' divisions, I think that there's not really very many strong clinch fighters. So when it clinches up, it's straight to wrestling. But finding those like dirty elbows on the inside or dirty knees and really making your opponent tired, that's one of my favorite things to do. So, I mean, living in Thailand now for 2 years, I have improved my clinch a lot. And I think that come my next fight, it'll be really exciting when it gets into the clinch.
Yeah, it's definitely a game changer. It busts your opponent's face so bad. But actually, even on the ground, I have a question on the ground. When you take someone's back, often you happen to be a little bit high on their back, but you post with your head and land those elbows and everything. Is it something that you work very hard to post very well with your head to get to stay balanced and just smash those elbows as hard as you can?
Yeah, that's something I like to do. So usually I'll get the back off of someone else's takedown. So I'll hit the whizzer hard, and having one less arm, I learned to post with my head to like sort of counteract having only one arm. So yeah, I love to just like be on my head, staring into their eyes and smashing them with my elbows as hard as I can, because anybody who's trained with me before will tell you how bony I am. So throwing my elbows is one of my favorite things, because it is just, it's really painful.
And talking about improvement, it's actually fun and interesting to watch that at first you always been very active from bottom, top control, doesn't matter. Always been willing to throw elbows. They weren't perfect technically before. There was almost just you throw whatever you can. But now through the time, they actually became so sharp and so dangerous, especially since you moved to Tiger Muay Thai. And coming to this, did you move to Tiger Muay Thai in 2019 for the tryouts?
Yeah, I went
Can
and
you
did the
talk what happened?
2019. So the tryouts were very, very hard. It's 4 days of intense training. Obviously, you put in your application and they choose who they want to come, and you go, and it's basically like two hard sessions a day for 4 days. They just try and break you and see who's like mentally strong enough and who's willing to push through everything. So yeah, that was a good experience to have, you know. To it's once again another mental test to know that I was ready to go through anything, and that I could push myself. So they gave me the contract, and I've been working with the Hickman brothers ever since. George and Frank have really sort of changed my game completely once again. So they've just leveled me up to sort of like the next level where I'm at now. So my wrestling's improved. Obviously, my elbows and my clinch and my knees have improved, and just my overall MMA knowledge have improved. So I'm really grateful for those boys, and I really can't wait to get back to Thailand soon. Hopefully, they open the borders for me.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I guess so. Actually, Frank, I saw an interview where he says he has to tell you to chill a lot of time in the training. Say just don't go too hard, don't go too hard. And I think it was for your first fight actually with Tiger Muay Thai that you missed weight and that you had like you win the fight, but it was like a long 5-on-5. And do you feel you were overtraining that one a little bit?
Yeah, I had a lot of issues going into that one that I sort of haven't really spoke about. I had a couple of pretty serious sort of like injuries going on, and obviously moving to a new gym, a new climate, flying for the first ever time to a fight. I'd never flown into fight week before, so that was like an experience for my body with the water. And then going from like a hot, humid climate to a cold one to try and cut weight was intense. Plus, I'd been overtraining because it was my first sort of full-time camp for a fight. I didn't have a job at that point, and I was training. So all the time in Australia, I worked all day, and then I would hit 2 training sessions at night. Whereas in Thailand, I'm not working, so I'm hitting 4 or 5 sessions a day, every day for maybe 3 months coming up to that fight. So I was really overtrained when I got there, and I definitely felt it. I mean, although I won, I watched that fight back, and I'm disappointed with that fight and my effort because of how I felt. I didn't feel 100% in that fight.
Well, actually, I love that fight. not like for necessarily technically or anything, just because you push so hard to actually finish the fight, and it's not like a close fight. Just not a dominant destruction, but it's still a dominant victory.
Yeah, I know. I'm just disappointed because I know I could have finished her had I felt 100%, but it was also a good learning experience for me once again, that sometimes people, you just can't put them away, and you just got to keep going, keep damaging as much as possible.
And you should be disappointed because you're very competitive. That's why. That's another proof why and you have to be to reach that level that you want to reach. So that's a good thing. So yeah, actually moving to Thailand, which is like most people's dream to go train. Most people who are into martial arts, of course, but it takes a lot. Like the weather is so different, even from Australia, and the way they train also is so different. Did you feel you need like a good training camp and then you will get used to train there?
Yeah, after that fight, I went back and I was a lot smarter with the way that I was training, and I started doing a lot more recovery. I've never before that fight, I never did recovery. It was never a thing, you know. I would always like redline myself every training session, push as hard as I could, go to sleep, wake up, do it again the next day. So that fight forced me to stop overtraining, start recovering a little bit, and actually start listening to what people were telling me a little bit more, because I was very hard-headed before. And even though my coaches would tell me to chill out and slow down, if they sent me home from the gym, I would go on a run and not tell anyone, because I felt like I needed to work harder, because that's how I got myself into the position I'm at. But I've slowly started to realize that you only need to do what people are telling you. You don't need to do everything. So yeah.
And yeah, not that the team you had in Australia wasn't good at all. That's not what I meant. But there's a difference when someone tell you something, and when someone that you knew that you've been watching before tell you something. Like in Tiger Muay Thai, there's so many great fighters, even in not only in MMA, but overall. That sometimes it's good to stay loyal to what gets you there, but at some point it's good to listen to people who has way more experience, right?
Yeah, I just started picking up everything that I could off of all the people that I had sort of watched and respected. So yeah, I found like my way of doing things throughout picking up things from them.
And just curious about Thailand and Muay Thai. Do you watch Muay Thai often, or do you just train mostly but don't watch too much?
Sorry, my phone is dying at the moment, just so you know. I do watch Muay Thai a little bit. Not so much though, the like stadium fights, but I'll watch like Super Champ or Hardcore, which are two more like foreign shows in Thailand. I like Muay Thai and I really respect Muay Thai, but it's a little bit slow for me to watch sometimes, especially
Okay.
like coming from MMA. It's like go, go, go. Watching the Muay Thai is a little bit slow.
Okay, but the training is interesting, right? How much drilling they do, to master one specific punch, kick, whatever. And also, I always felt Muay Thai was a good base for MMA, just for the balance and the clinch, of course. And so we're gonna come to the clinch, of course. Now that we could see through the fights that once you are Tiger, the clinch, as you said, you are like much more comfortable, much more dangerous there. But would you say that your best performance was your last fight, the one you had like a month ago?
No, I think my best performance was the fight before that one.
Okay.
With Caitlin. I'm not sure if you've seen that fight. But
Actually, I saw it on Fight Pass, not on YouTube, but on Fight Pass. I watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I feel like my best performance ever was my fight against Caitlin. The last fight, I mean, I thought it was a good performance, but there was some things that I wasn't happy with. Obviously, being a perfectionist, and a lot of things out the back went sort of wrong before that fight. I didn't really get a warm up at all. So I felt like my first round was really rushed, and I really just wanted to go in there and finish her in the first. And I feel like I could have, considering how the first went. I had her back the whole time. So yeah, but that's just the perfectionist in me. I just like the Caitlin fight because I started getting to do my crazy stuff that I was doing at the beginning of my amateur career, but it was actually working. So I was throwing like flying knees, and I was throwing big head kicks and body kicks, body punches, and I was just going a little bit crazy, but it was all starting to work and come together. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, that left hook to the right head kick. You tried it many times. I think the flying knee, you mean, was when she was against the cage, right?
Yeah. Sorry. I clenched up with her and jumped for the flying knee. I'd done it in training and on the pads a lot coming up to that fight. So I was really excited that I got to throw that and that it landed the way it did.
And what impressed me a lot about that fight was that it felt that you could roll with her forever. Like your transition from backmount to whatever you want, it would just feel that she would never escape the position except at the end of the round, and that you could just smash or submit her as much as you want. That was very scary actually to watch, to feel if I'm in that position, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I don't.
Yeah, I was really confident in that fight. Once I seen what sort of happened, I felt her clinch up for the first throw that she went for, and I hit that whizzer back take. And I just knew from then in my head, I was like, you're fucked. I was like, I have you everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, that one, the one you mentioned, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, here we go again. That's gonna be like this. And it was very, very impressive. And so your last fight was in Abu Dhabi. Habib was in the audience actually to watch your fights. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool. And also you start to develop that low kick a little bit more than you used to. And I just felt, did you think you also need to hide your low kick a little bit more? Because she caught you, she countered you a few times. Every time you just kick instead of like jabbing before the kick, to hide a little bit. Do you feel something you're still working on?
Yeah, I had been landing that low kick a lot in training on all my sparring partners, and actually was like making people stop with the calf kick in sparring. So I think I just fell in love with it mentally, and I went to the well with it way too many times at the start of that fight. I also think that had to do with the warm-up not being 100%. So yeah, I do need to hide it better, but I think that like when you watch the second round and I start throwing it in that second round, it's a lot better. So I think if they had given me a proper warm up, I would have been hitting it a lot better.
I understand. And so, we didn't mention that those two last fights, they are flyweight, right?
Yes.
And so now you sign with the UFC. I guess you're gonna sign for that flyweight division, or you're gonna try strawweight.
Yeah, I'm fighting as a flyweight for the UFC.
What do you think about the division? Is there like so just what you think about it?
I think that there's some strong girls up the top, but the rest of the division is fairly weak. I think that it's a newer division, so obviously it always takes a little bit longer for them to build the division, I guess. I would say strawweight's the strongest weight division that there is in the UFC for females. So yeah, I think that flyweight's not there yet. But yeah, up the top end, there's maybe 3 or 4 girls that are very strong in my opinion. But yeah, I think that the division's pretty wide open, other than those top girls. I think that the bottom girls are all very similar, and it's sort of wide open. Anybody could beat anybody at any given time. So yeah.
And so when you were in Abu Dhabi, you were hoping to find a fight, short notice, doesn't matter, like for a flyweight. When Lauren Murphy fought, you were already back in Vegas, right? When Cynthia pulled out, I think.
Actually, that's how I got my contract. So Cynthia tested positive, unfortunately, for COVID.
Yeah.
And my manager called me and told me that I was fighting Lauren Murphy next week and that I needed to go and get my COVID test done. And I was flying out the next day, and I actually tested positive for COVID as well. So that's why that didn't happen. But yes, I was in Vegas at the time.
Did you watch that fight, the one she had with the newcomer?
Yeah, I watched the fight.
Were you impressed?
No. I think
Yeah.
I lost the first round, and I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't have much else to say other than that. She definitely lost that first round, and the other girl got tired, so it wasn't an impressive showcase. And the fact that she's campaigning for a title shot off of beating some unknown that fought her on a week notice but still beat her in the first round is quite surprising to me.
Yeah. I agree with you. I just asked for a joke. But did you hope to fight someone ranked, or you don't care? Just want, that doesn't matter who you fight, people, they will be impressed and you will get to the rankings quite quickly?
Yeah, to me, it's never really mattered who I fought, so I just leave that to Mick and Danny at the moment. But I don't mind fighting someone ranked straight away and getting into the rankings, but unfortunately I'm not fighting someone ranked straight away. But that's okay. Like, I get a full camp for my first fight, and I'm sure that once they see what I can do, once I prove to them what I can do in this next fight, I'll get another one pretty quickly, and hopefully I'll work up the rankings quickly as well.
Do you have any idea when you would like to fight, because of the fact that you have to wait to be able to go to Thailand? Or will you be even willing to take a fight in the States, training at Extreme Couture with Cynthia and everything, and fight in the States? Do you don't mind?
I've already taken a fight. I can't announce when it is yet,
No
but
worries.
yeah, I have accepted a fight. So yeah, I don't like to sit and wait. You know, I can make a camp out of anywhere. So I'm going to do a camp here in Vegas, and I will fight soon.
That's awesome news. I cannot wait. I
Yeah.
cannot wait. I'm super pumped to watch you in that division, and hopefully before that fight we can talk again. That would be cool. I'd like to break
Yeah.
down some of your stuff, some stuff you do. So thank you so much for the time. That was a pleasure,
Thank
and
you.
good luck for your debut. And talk soon then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.